Make it happen. As a Spectrum Internet customer, you get 1 line of unlimited mobile included for 1 year. Additional lines
not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. A Florida community is mourning after 2 people were killed and 6 more injured in a shooting on Florida State. The suspected gunman has been identified as a 20-year-old son of a local sheriff's deputy. He allegedly used his mom's former service weapon to carry out the attack. The sheriff's office confirmed she has requested and was granted personal leave. President Donald Trump says negotiations between Ukraine and Russia are, quote, coming to a head. Those comments come after Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned the U.S. may move on from peace talks if there's no progress in the coming days. Rubio's comments stepping up pressure on both sides to reach a peace deal, even as the U.S. and Ukraine made progress on a minerals agreement Trump has sought. And Pope Francis absent from Good Friday ceremonies as the Vatican marks the Easter weekend. The Pope is still recovering from near-fatal pneumonia. The 88-year-old pontiff named a number of cardinals to stand in for him throughout the meaning he could make some last-minute appearances. And that is a look at your Spectrum News in 90.
I'm meteorologist Ian Cassette with your weather on the ones. Our forecast focus heading into this weekend. It's going to be a stormy weather pattern across the plains and the heartland with rounds of storms likely and very heavy rain that could lead to flooding. Meanwhile, we have heavy snow continuing in the mountain west, but temperatures overall across the country are going to be trending up into next week. We'll have all the details on these headlines coming up with your weather on the ones.
Situation exists on campus. Take shelter now in a secure location.
A community is mourning and looking for answers after 2 people died and 6 more injured in the latest mass shooting to rock a U.S. school campus. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Florida State University students and staff have returned to buildings on the Tallahassee campus to retrieve their belongings and lay flowers, balloons, and candles at a memorial near the Student Union. Classes and school events have been canceled through the weekend, and the school has set up a support center for counseling services. While students and staff deal with the tragedy, we are learning more about the attack from witnesses and investigators. And we're joined now with Spectrum's Chris Welch. Chris, what is the latest?
Between the suspected shooter and any of these victims. They also say this entire ordeal lasted only about 4 minutes before police confronted and shot him.
We saw cops running, students running. It was just like complete chaos.
Witnesses recounting terror and disbelief. 2 people are dead and several are wounded as a result of this violence. One student says she was walking across the green near the Student Union building when she saw a man standing near an orange Hummer with a gun.
He turned towards the Union, and that's when I saw him shoot a woman in purple scrubs in her back, and I just started running.
Reed Saybold was in a nearby classroom when other students ran in yelling about a shooter.
We immediately did as we were taught to do in high school. We turned off the lights, locked the doors, barricaded under our desks.
Seybold says he knew that the suspect is an FSU student and is also the son of a sheriff's deputy. When he was arrested, he was carrying a handgun that used to be her service weapon.
It's just very sad that he would do that to a school, let alone do that to his mom, knowing that that's her job and what she works for is to keep people, especially students, safe.
And Sharon, back to the mother, Jessica Eichner. She works as a deputy in the sheriff's department. She was actually on duty as a school resource officer at the time, working at a school, a middle school, just 2 miles away. So when this all happened, that school went into lockdown and she helped secure that campus there as well. She also has apparently requested and has been granted leave from her position.
Wow, and that makes some sense too. All right,
does.
Chris Welch with the latest on this tragedy. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Trump and Marco Rubio threatening to walk away. These latest comments are a sign of the administration's growing urgency to find a solution. Spectrum Washington reporter Evan Kozlov has the latest.
We need to figure out here now within a matter of days whether this is doable in the short term, because if it's not, then I think we're just going to move on.
Those were the headline-grabbing comments Friday morning by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who met with Ukrainian and European officials on Thursday. Negotiators from the U.S. have also held numerous meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin as the U.S. urges both sides to accept a framework for a ceasefire deal.
And I have to see an enthusiasm to want to end it. And I think I see that enthusiasm. I think I see it from both sides.
At the White House on Friday, President Donald Trump echoing these warnings.
If for some reason one of the two parties makes it just take a pass, but hopefully we won't have to do that.
All this comes as Russia's ambassador to the United Nations pushed back on the proposed ceasefire deal after leaving a closed-door meeting of the UN Security Council on Thursday.
To speak about ceasefire is simply unrealistic at this stage.
And as the negotiations continue, so do the attacks in Ukraine. On Friday morning in the city of Kharkiv, workers cleared debris left behind by a Russian missile attack that killed one person and injured almost 100.
And Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is also digging in, saying on Thursday that he would not accept a ceasefire deal that included giving up its territory to Russia, even accusing U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff of, quote, spreading Russian narratives when he suggested that a deal might center on Ukrainian land. Sharon?
Evan, before we let you about that.
Right, so this will be round 2 of discussions after delegations from the U.S. and Iran actually met last weekend in Oman. And it's helpful to look back at how we got here. You may recall a nuclear deal was first reached during the Obama presidency back in 2015, in which Iran agreed to limit its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of sanctions. But remember, back in 2018, that's when President Trump ripped up the deal, arguing that it only empowered Iran in the Middle East. Fast forward to last month when President Trump reached out to Iran's supreme leader proposing new negotiations. This is in part because of concerns by many U.S. officials that Iran has built back its nuclear program. Sharon, President Trump has threatened that the U.S. will use military force to destroy Iran's nuclear sites if they're unable to reach a deal.
All right, Evan Kozlov reporting for us. Evan, thanks.
Thank you.
Pope Francis was noticeably absent from Good Friday service at the Vatican today as the pontiff recovers from a J.D. Vance was there with his family for the ceremony in St. Peter's Basilica. Vance, who became Catholic in 2019, is expected to have a formal meeting at the Vatican on Saturday. The pontiff is not expected to take part. A Maryland senator back from El Salvador without one of his constituents. Coming up, the latest on the saga of Kilmar Abrego Garcia as the battle to get him home wages on.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
Bring it to the party, bring it to the top, bring it to the party. Never gonna stop.
Enjoy, unwind, connect with Spectrum TV On Demand. From the latest hit movies you've been waiting to watch to your favorite comfort shows and more, all available instantly for you to stream. Create the all-around entertainment experience you've always wanted with Spectrum TV On Demand. Browse over 80,000 on-demand titles today.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Meteorologist Ian Cassette with your weather on the ones. The big picture across the country here this weekend, it will be pretty wet and stormy for the center of Missouri. Will keep us high and dry, especially in the southeast. Should be very warm this weekend. Going west, we have snow, heavy snow in the mountains of Colorado into Arizona and New Mexico. So a very different Easter weekend picture depending on where you're at. Atlanta, temperatures in the 80s, lots of sunshine. Kansas City, opposite, 50s with storms throughout the weekend, stuck in that same pattern. Myrtle Beach, 70s and sunshine. So let's pick things up here tonight. Storms will be ongoing from Dallas, eastern parts of Kansas through St. Louis. There will be that potential for some severe hail and winds as we get into Saturday morning. Rounds of rain will continue across these same areas here of the heartland and into the mid-Mississippi Valley. By Saturday night into Sunday morning, that's when we'll see those storms rolling again out of Oklahoma, heading towards St. Louis. And this low pressure system, this is going to be a higher end threat of severe weather come Sunday. I believe that we will have for these strong thunderstorms from Arkansas northward towards St. Louis up towards Chicago by Sunday night. That is a good time to be weather aware. The reason we're seeing this pattern, we have that stubborn front, it's not budging. That's going to lead to storms from Dallas, Oklahoma City, St. Louis here with that front really unable to move farther to the east until low kicks things out. But we have a level 2 threat for severe weather for tonight into tomorrow morning. Chicago down to Oklahoma City with that main threat being hail and winds. Now through the weekend, we're really going to be watching for that flood threat. We have a lot of rain over the same areas, so possibility for up to 5 inches of rain here. St. Louis, 2 to 3 inches of rain. So it's going to be a wet weekend, but we'll talk about what's ahead coming up with your weather on the ones.
If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. Students at Florida State University holding memorial. President Trump says negotiations between Ukraine and Russia are, quote, coming to a head after Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned the U.S. may move on from peace talks if there is no progress in the coming days. Overnight, U.S. airstrikes in Yemen killed at least 74. U.S. officials say the strikes sent a message to those still supplying fuel to the Houthis. And that is what you need to know. Senator Chris Van Hollen speaking out after traveling to El Salvador to meet face-to-face with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The fate of the deported Maryland man has become a partisan flashpoint. Washington correspondent Harry Lee reports.
Senator Chris Van Hollen is back in the United States after meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Stay in the U.S. Abrego Garcia's case has become a symbol of President Donald Trump's and Republicans' aggressive immigration agenda, while Democrats say the deportation violates due process and the rule of law.
This case is about upholding constitutional rights for Abrego Garcia and for every American. The President Trump and the Trump administration wants to say that those who are fighting to stand up for our Constitution don't want to fight gang violence. That is an outright lie.
Van Hollen described the conditions in the notorious El Salvador prison CICOT and said while Abrego Garcia appears physically okay, he said he was afraid of some of the inmates in nearby cells. Since Van Hollen's trip, more Democrats have pledged to visit to push for his release, but it's not clear if the meetings will have any impact on Abrego. Of being a gang member.
Our people voted for me to get them out. They want them out. They want them out.
Earlier this week, both President Trump and Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele claimed they had no basis to return him. A federal appeals judge wrote in an opinion Thursday that the administration's actions were, quote, shocking, and ruled against the Trump administration's request to block the Supreme Court's order to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return. The legal fight over Abrego Garcia is part of a larger showdown between the administration and the courts. President Donald Trump is battling dozens of judicial challenges to his actions in office, some of which stretch or contradict existing law. In Washington, Harry Lee, Spectrum News.
Hunter Biden, whistleblower and IRS agent Gary Shapley is out of a job just days after being named acting IRS commissioner. Shapley will be replaced by Deputy Shapley's short-lived tenure comes as a stream of high-ranking officials have exited the federal tax collection agency via a mix of resignations over President Trump's policy decisions, layoffs, and demotions. Saturday marks 30 years since the Oklahoma City bombing, the deadliest domestic terrorism attack in U.S. history. On April 19, 1995, a truck filled with explosives detonated outside the Murrah Federal Building that killed 168 people, including 19 children, and hurt several hundred more. A public ceremony will be held Saturday to mark the day at the Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum. The event will include reading the names of those killed, remarks by family members and survivors, and a keynote address by former President Bill Clinton. Timothy McVeigh was executed for the bombing in 2001. Co-conspirator Terry Nichols is serving handwritten note by the gunman. The release is in line with President Trump's disclosure of previously classified documents. Kennedy was fatally shot on June 5th of 1968, shortly after giving a speech celebrating his victory in California's Democratic presidential primary. His assassin, Sirhan Sirhan, is serving life in prison. Disgraced Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein will be allowed to stay at a New York City hospital during his retrial. A judge approved his request to stay in the hospital rather than in jail while not in court. Weinstein's lawyers say he needs medical treatment. He's being tried again on rape and sexual assault charges after New York's highest court overturned his 2020 conviction last year. Weinstein denies all charges. Jury selection will resume Monday. There could soon be a new biggest credit card company in the U.S. Provide the government a plan to address several issues. Sniffing out potential threats at the Boston Marathon, how a special explosive detecting canine is training for the assignment. That's just ahead, right here on Spectrum News.
For the millions
millions of school-age children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together.
Oh, that was funny.
It's all about connecting with seamless connectivity. And internet customers get one mobile line included for 1 year with Spectrum.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up
to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Meteorologist Ian Cassette with your weather on the ones. For the next few days, we will see a lot of action again across the plains and heartland. Tampa to Charlotte, temperatures well above average in the 80s and 90s. And then on the west coast, California looking great with temperatures in the 60s and 70s, though we will have a chance farther north for some rain up in Seattle. We'll be watching for that threat of severe weather this weekend for the center of the country. Texas, a level 2 threat from Dallas through western parts of Arkansas and into Missouri. A level 1 threat goes all the way to Columbus. The main threat being winds and hail. But as we turn to Sunday, we have a little bit more going on in the atmosphere. A strong low pressure system is going to be heading northward, so that is going to introduce a higher threat for severe weather, especially for Missouri and parts of Illinois, where we have a level 3 threat northwest of St. Louis. The main concern there would be not just the winds, but also a potential for some stronger tornadoes. So keep an eye on that. They remain weather aware across the region this weekend. Futurecast, as we get into next week, the system will take down to the southeast towards the Gulf Coast. We'll have opportunities for rain and storms at what looks to be a pretty unsettled forecast throughout next week, and that does look like it will continue even farther west for the plains, with opportunities for storms and temperatures that are expected to be pretty mild. We're going to have this warmth building back up after this brief cool down, whereas you look at the departure from normal, Denver going from 13 degrees below average Saturday up to 10 degrees above average by Monday, and a rising temperature in Kansas City, while the east remains warm and will only continue to be warm all the way through the upcoming week. So temperatures Saturday, 80s and 90s for the southeast, 50s and 60s for the plains. Sunday will be a bit warmer, getting to the 60s in Kansas City, 70s in Dallas with some rain chances, and the 80s and 90s that hold firm there in the southeast. By Monday, 60s and 70s as far north as Minneapolis, and temperatures that are going to be warming active pattern. So if you were quiet this week, it does look like there will be better chances for rain next week, especially the center of the country once again. And that means we're going to be having to watch for the chance of some stronger storms given the time of year. So definitely make sure you're keeping tabs.
Fans Fans, runners, and first responders are gearing up for this year's Boston Marathon. And while police say there are no credible threats to the event, Spectrum's Megan Parsons shows us how an explosive detection K9 has been training to sniff out any potential danger and ensure the safety of everyone.
Good girl, Jewel. You ready to go to work?
Twice a day, every day, K9 Jewel is training.
It's very easy for her. She's got a lot of energy.
Jewel is an explosive materials.
There's hundreds of combinations that she's imprinted on. When we're at an event, we're out searching certain areas, and if she does come across something, she's going to give an alert.
Officer Brian LaValle says the 2-year-old lab is a critical resource for the department and a mood booster for the campus community.
She's fun to be around. She has a lot of energy. She loves to play, but when she's on task and we're out searching and patrolling on foot, you can tell that demeanor has changed and she knows she's there for a purpose.
On Monday, K9 Jewel is taking her nose to the course. The pair is one of many K9 teens from across the area who will be stationed along the Boston Marathon route to keep runners and spectators safe.
We're going to have a sector of the marathon that we're responsible and just making sure that everything is safe.
While the WPI campus is much different than a marathon, Jewel is trained and prepared for any environment. Last summer, she worked the Boston Pops 4th of July fireworks.
She loves to hang out with me when we're out patrolling. She likes to be by my side, but she knows that she has a job to do and she's going to do it well.
This marks Jewel's first Boston Marathon as a working dog and LaValle's 8th time patrolling the big event. He knows how much this accomplishment means to runners and says the two are ready to make it a day to celebrate.
The runners themselves have put in so many hours of training, and the fans that show up during this event are just so excited to see them make that accomplishment. And our job is just to be there, be in the background, and just make sure everyone's going to have a great time.
Megan Parsons.
The Hawks and the Miami Heat face off to determine which team earns the 8th seed spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Later in the West, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Dallas Mavericks hit the court. The winner of that matchup takes the last spot in the Western Conference playoffs. The NBA playoffs begin Saturday. Ryan Gosling is set to join the Star Wars galaxy, landing the lead role in a new standalone film. Gosling made a surprise appearance at a Star Wars celebration event in Japan when the news broke. The film is titled Star Wars Starfighter. Director Sean Levy has been developing the film since 2022. It takes place 5 years after the events of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. The film will hit theaters May of 2027. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News at 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Our journey towards improving mental health doesn't always present a clear path. Every Thursday on Your Mental Health, we listen to voices across our communities, discussing the challenges of everyday life and presenting accessible resources to guide us along the path to our well-being, providing hope and empowering choices that light the way to a healthier you.
Your Mental Health with Dr. Nicole Clark, Thursdays on Spectrum News Plus, available on all your favorite devices.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. From Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/team up.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather we're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app.